The promise? It wasn't a business, it was a cult. A carefully built illusion wrapped in the language of motivation, wealth, and transcendence. They called it the Path of Abundance, an exclusive network of financial mentorship that claimed to unlock spiritual prosperity through aligned action. At first it looked harmless, a self-help community for ambitious people. But behind every handshake and every smiling testimonial was a calculated system designed to control, extract, and consume. The story begins in 2016, when a man named Adrian Vale appeared seemingly out of nowhere. With an accent that hinted at privilege and an aura of mysticism, he introduced himself as a financial prophet. He spoke of vibrational wealth and energetic currency, words that sounded profound but meant nothing concrete. His followers didn't notice, they were too mesmerized. He promised that money was divine energy, and that to be rich was to be holy. Soon, his online webinars grew from dozens to thousands of viewers. People mortgaged their homes to attend his retreats. They believed they were buying a future. They were buying entry into a carefully staged illusion, one that would devour them all. The leader. Adrian Vale wasn't just charismatic, he was engineered to manipulate. Everything from his tone to his gestures had been tested, rehearsed, optimized for psychological impact. Former associates later revealed that he studied cult formation, neurolinguistic programming, and sales hypnosis. He dressed in minimalist white, wore no jewelry, and always appeared under golden lighting. It gave the impression of purity, while the backdrop, a pyramid-shaped logo, whispered hierarchy. His followers were encouraged to rename themselves initiates, to abandon skepticism and align with the vibration of wealth. He claimed poverty was a spiritual sickness, and he alone had the cure. The higher the payment, the closer one moved toward enlightenment. The mentorship tiers, bronze, silver, gold, diamond, became both status symbols and shackles. Members competed to donate more to prove devotion. Their social media turned into altars of self-branding and borrowed luxury. In truth, it was a self-feeding machine. Money flowed upward, loyalty flowed inward, and individuality dissolved. To question Adrian was to betray one's higher self. And in that silence, the cult of wealth began to grow its teeth. The conversion. For new members, the transformation felt euphoric. At the first seminar, music swelled, lights shimmered, and Adrian's voice filled the air like prophecy. He told stories of people who manifested mansions, of believers who turned debt into fortune. He insisted that skepticism was a poverty frequency. So they surrendered their doubt and their savings. Each participant was assigned a wealth guardian, a handler who monitored emotional compliance. They were encouraged to cut contact with low-vibration influences, family, friends, partners who questioned the movement. Isolation deepened loyalty. After a few weeks, they stopped thinking critically. Their language changed. They began to echo Adrian's phrases: energetic transaction, alignment with prosperity, death of the egoic wallet. To outsiders, it sounded like parody. To insiders, it was revelation. The retreats grew stranger. They were held in secluded villas, where sleep and food were restricted. Members were told the exhaustion was cleansing. What it really did was erode resistance. By the third retreat, participants were signing blank checks and confession contracts. The cult no longer needed to persuade, it owned them. The machine. Beneath the spiritual theater ran a sophisticated financial network. Each donation was funneled through layered shell corporations registered across multiple countries. Payments moved through crypto wallets, private trusts, and front charities that claimed to fund orphanages, none of which existed. Adrian's inner circle, known as the custodians, managed the flow. They were former bankers, accountants, and digital marketers who understood how to make corruption look like transparency. On paper, the cult of wealth appeared philanthropic. In reality, it was a laundering empire worth tens of millions. And yet, to its members, none of that mattered. They weren't investors, they were disciples. They chanted affirmations while Adrian broadcasted live from luxury penthouses. Money is energy. Energy must circulate. They believed him. Every transaction was presented as a spiritual test. To refuse payment was to reject growth. To give more was to ascend. The brilliance of the system lay in its faith economy, the illusion that financial obedience was divine duty. The more they gave, the deeper they sank, until numbers replaced faith and debt replaced salvation. The doubt. Eventually, cracks appeared. A few insiders began to notice inconsistencies. Projects that never materialized, properties that vanished from records, mentors who disappeared after asking questions. One woman, a former accountant named Lydia Morn, became suspicious when she discovered duplicate ledgers. When she confronted a custodian, she was told that truth vibrates differently for those who are not ready. Days later, she was expelled and publicly shamed as energetically bankrupt. Her story circulated in whispers among lower-tier members, but fear kept them silent. Adrian had conditioned them to believe that leaving the group would bring financial ruin and spiritual death. Some claimed to experience panic attacks after considering departure, proof of psychological anchoring. By then, their social identities were inseparable from the cult. They had no community beyond it. Lydia tried to contact authorities, but no one cared. Fraud within a self-help movement rarely drew attention. So the machine continued, fed by hope and blindness, until something far darker began to surface. Rituals disguised as purification sessions, where faith turned fatal. The faith economy. The cult of wealth entered its golden phase. Thousands of believers, hundreds of mentors, dozens of corporate entities. Conferences multiplied, rebranded as Ascension Gatherings. Every new member paid to rise, every tier funding the next illusion. The numbers were staggering. But what fascinated investigators years later was how little resistance the followers offered. Their logic had been replaced by ritual. Every morning they repeated mantras: I am abundance. I am flow. I am infinite currency. The group introduced symbolic payments called energetic tithes. Members sent money to Adrian directly, under the belief that financial sacrifice dissolved ego. Those who hesitated were accused of vibrational blockage. Emotional confessionals followed, broadcast on private live streams, framed as spiritual breakthroughs. Adrian's presence became omnipresent. His image on screens, his voice on playlists, his name whispered like prayer. He controlled their daily rhythm. Wake, meditate, donate, recruit, sleep. The boundary between faith and finance disintegrated. What once looked like mentorship now resembled worship. Every question found its answer in Adrian's gaze. Every doubt was sin, every deposit an act of redemption. The isolation protocol. By 2018, Adrian's teachings evolved into something even more insidious. He introduced the concept of energetic detox, claiming that external negativity, friends, spouses, co-workers, drain prosperity. Members were instructed to cut off contact with anyone outside the network for 30 days, later extended indefinitely. Families panicked as sons, daughters, and partners vanished into gated retreats. Phones were surrendered to cleanse attachment. The villas were hidden behind privacy fences and NDAs. Inside, the air smelled of incense and sweat, chanting echoed through the night. Sleep deprivation blurred judgment. Participants confessed every financial secret to purify the flow. They were told to record video confessions of their fears, material later used to ensure obedience. Survivors described an atmosphere of feverish devotion mixed with quiet terror. Adrian appeared rarely now, only on projected screens, his voice calm, almost divine. He reminded them that the outside world will never understand what we're building. They believed him. Their isolation completed the conditioning. They no longer trusted outsiders, only the hierarchy. What began as mentorship had become containment. The rituals of purification. The first death was disguised as transcendence. A young man named Rowan collapsed during a prosperity immersion, a week-long fasting ceremony. The official narrative said his heart failed while shedding scarcity. Internal witnesses later claimed he was denied medical care. Intervention would have been interference with divine flow. His body was quietly removed before dawn. Members were told to celebrate his rebirth. The ritual expanded. Soon, fasting was replaced by cold water baptisms, then by prolonged isolation chambers where participants were locked in candlelit rooms, repeating mantras until hallucination blurred reality. Adrian rebranded suffering as spiritual currency. Pain, he said, was the final payment before ascension. Those who endured longer were promised leadership roles. Those who broke were shamed publicly. Each tragedy was reframed as proof of devotion. The more extreme the sacrifice, the greater the faith. Outsiders saw motivational quotes. Insiders saw human offerings to a god named wealth. The descent. When the second death occurred, panic rippled quietly through the inner circle. A woman named Celeste drowned during a nighttime cleansing. The official statement claimed she merged with the current of abundance. But several witnesses later testified she was forced into the water by guardians after refusing another payment. Her death triggered internal fractures. A few mentors fled, contacting journalists, but their warnings were dismissed as revenge from ex-employees. The cult of wealth controlled perception expertly. Their PR wing flooded social media with polished testimonials and luxury imagery. Algorithms drowned dissent. Meanwhile, the laundering intensified. Crypto wallets were emptied overnight. Millions vanished into offshore accounts. Adrian's public appearances stopped. He communicated only through encrypted videos recorded in undisclosed locations. His tone shifted, from charming teacher to prophetic dictator. He warned that betrayers will face energetic collapse. For believers, this meant death. For investigators, it would later mean evidence of intent. But at the time, no one dared confront him. They still believed he held the key to their destiny. The collapse of reason. By the end of 2019, paranoia replaced enlightenment. Members monitored each other for signs of spiritual decay. Accusations became confessions. Confessions became punishments. The hierarchy resembled a totalitarian state masked as meditation. The elite custodians now operated like enforcers, confiscating property to protect divine assets. Adrian's messages grew apocalyptic. He spoke of an approaching reset, a metaphysical event where only the pure would survive. Purity, of course, required payment. Bankrupt families sold everything, cars, jewelry, homes, to secure their place in salvation. Some disappeared entirely, relocating to hidden communes rumored to exist in the mountains of Costa Rica. Satellite images later confirmed compounds matching survivor descriptions. Inside, rituals escalated. Sleep deprivation turned to drug-induced trances. Believers filmed farewell statements in golden light, smiling through tears. The line between suicide and sacrifice vanished. Adrian's doctrine had reached its logical end, submission unto death. Yet no one outside noticed. The cult of wealth remained invisible behind hashtags of inspiration and success. To the digital world, it was still just another empire of motivation. The deaths multiplied. The bodies began to surface, both literal and figurative. In early 2020, 2 followers were found dead in what authorities ruled as suicides. Notes left behind referenced, ascending through the final gate. Another woman vanished entirely, her social media accounts scrubbed overnight. Every disappearance was spun into myth inside the group, proof that ascension was real. The remaining believers spoke about them with reverence, not fear. Adrian's absence only deepened his legend. He's transcending to prepare the next plane, they were told. To question was to desecrate the sacred. Yet beneath the silence, dread spread among the mid-level mentors. Some had joined for business, not faith. Now they were trapped in both. They held the secrets of money laundering, of falsified deaths, of blackmail videos. Leaving meant exposure, staying meant complicity. Fear became the true currency. Police reports were filed but ignored. Fraud, cult activity, missing adults. Nothing concrete. The cult of wealth operated in the gray zone between legality and belief, where free will becomes a weapon against itself. Each death strengthened the myth, each doubt buried deeper under layers of doctrine and shame. The echo chambers. As the outside world shut down during the pandemic, the cult turned isolation into theology. The world is collapsing because it rejected the vibration of wealth, Adrian's recorded message proclaimed. While economies froze, donations surged. People locked in their homes sent their final savings to a man they had never met in person. The online ecosystem, private Zooms, encrypted chats, digital ceremonies, became an echo chamber of shared delusion. Members recited chants to computer screens, crying as they transferred money. Adrian's image, pre-recorded and projected, served as both pastor and God. He instructed them to prepare for the Great Alignment, promising that those who stayed faithful through the crisis would inherit unimaginable power afterward. Some mortgaged their houses. Others abandoned families. The irony was haunting. While the world sought stability, these believers were diving willingly into collapse, convinced that ruin was the bridge to redemption. The cult thrived in the isolation, feeding on desperation and the human need to belong. When the physical gatherings resumed months later, their numbers had doubled. What had been madness was now momentum. The first leak. It was Lydia Morn, the expelled accountant, who lit the first spark. After 2 years in hiding, she released internal documents to an investigative journalist from London. The files revealed offshore transfers totaling $47 million, traced through a maze of shell companies. But the story barely made headlines. Editors feared lawsuits. Sources vanished mid-interview. Within weeks, Lydia's car was found abandoned on a rural road, keys still inside. No trace of her body. The journalist received threatening emails and relocated under protection. The leak, instead of destroying the cult, fortified its mythology. Adrian's followers saw it as proof of persecution. "They fear our truth," he said in a new video, tone tranquil but eyes sharp. "The old system is collapsing and they will silence the awakened." Donations spiked again. Inside, though, paranoia spread. The custodians began interrogating members, demanding loyalty oaths. Whispers of betrayal circulated. Each meeting ended with emotional confessions, tears, and applause. The structure was eating itself alive, but from the outside, it still gleamed, golden, polished, untouchable. The Great Purge. Late 2021. Adrian announced the final phase, the purification. Only the most devoted would cross into the new frequency. Members were instructed to relocate to secluded sanctuaries in South America and Eastern Europe. Families reported disappearances, but legal authorities still viewed it as voluntary travel. In the jungles of Costa Rica, survivors would later describe night-long rituals, fasting, chanting, ingestion of unknown substances. Adrian himself never appeared. His voice guided them through hidden speakers. Over days, several participants collapsed from dehydration. The remaining were told not to intervene. Their energy was incompatible. Those who protested were locked away for recalibration. Then came the fires. One compound burned to the ground under mysterious circumstances. Locals heard screams, but when authorities arrived, the site was empty. Only ashes and a single gold medallion engraved with the pyramid symbol. The official investigation cited electrical failure. The cult framed it as ascension. Dozens of families would never see their relatives again. Adrian's voice soon vanished from the internet. His last message: "The transfer is complete. Do not look back." The investigation. When survivors finally escaped, their testimonies sounded unbelievable. A religion of money that demanded blood. Police raids across multiple countries uncovered ledgers, burner phones, and traces of cryptocurrency wallets. The sums exceeded $100 million. Yet Adrian was gone. No passport activity, no confirmed sightings. Interpol issued notices, but the trail dissolved into offshore anonymity. Investigators found flight records linking his lieutenants to Dubai, Zurich, and Kiev. One suspect confessed under immunity. The deaths were intentional, framed as spiritual rebirth to erase witnesses. But courts struggled to define the crime: fraud, homicide, or mass psychological manipulation. The cult of wealth existed everywhere and nowhere, its legal structure dispersed like smoke. Survivors organized online groups seeking justice, yet many still defended Adrian, insisting he had ascended and would return. The human mind, once programmed by faith, refused to accept betrayal. To them, the collapse was merely the cocoon before transcendence. For the rest of the world, it was another ghost story in the age of greed, a digital empire built on hope, dismantled by hunger for belief. The manhunt. Months turned into years, and Adrian Vale became both myth and mystery. His face appeared on international watch lists, yet no one could verify his identity. Some believed he fled under a new alias, surgically altered, blending among New Age influencers who sold the same dream with new branding. Others whispered that he had died during the purification, consumed by the fire he started. Interpol agents traced encrypted transfers leading to art auctions and offshore trusts. A yacht registered under one of his shell companies was found drifting near the Canary Islands, empty, stocked with luxury food, and a single laptop wiped clean. Every trace felt designed, staged. Forensic analysts described the evidence as a digital labyrinth. The cult of wealth had never been a business, it was architecture of faith coded into finance. Each shell company was a temple, each ledger a scripture, each believer an offering. Adrian had weaponized capitalism's structure itself. He didn't just exploit greed, he ritualized it. That was his brilliance and his camouflage. To this day, not a single verified image of him has surfaced since 2021. The survivors. Survivors live with a silence heavier than guilt. Many refuse to speak publicly, fearing judgment or worse, relapse into belief. They describe waking nightmares, flashes of Adrian's voice, phantom instructions to align the vibration. Some lost families, others their minds. One woman still keeps her cult of wealth journal under lock, every page filled with affirmations written in a manic hand. She calls it "my scripture of blindness." Psychologists studying survivors found patterns similar to war trauma: cognitive dissonance, dependency, identity loss. They had built their self-worth entirely around the cult's validation. Once it vanished, so did their sense of self. Governments offered no reparations. The movement was legally classified as voluntary association. But online the story refused to die. Forums began dissecting every rumor, every leaked file. A new wave of curious minds turned the tragedy into content. Podcasts, documentaries, dramatizations, each one reviving the echo. For survivors, every retelling is a reopening of the wound. Yet they know the truth must be repeated, if only to warn those still drawn to the golden promise of transcendence through wealth. The resurrection. 2 years after the last known compound burned, new videos began circulating. A man in silhouette speaking with a familiar cadence, referencing the next frequency, promising a rebirth of divine capitalism. The channel had no verified links to Adrian, yet his phrases, his metaphors, even his pauses were identical. Within months, thousands subscribed. New retreats were advertised, smaller, subtler, under names like Quantum Prosperity Circles. Investigators suspect former custodians revived the network, evolving it for the social media age. Now the promise is wrapped in NFTs, crypto projects, manifestation coaching. The cult never died, it evolved. It shed its skin and rebranded, because the hunger it fed never went away. In the digital era, faith requires no temple, only a camera and charisma. Every generation births its own Adrian Vale, selling the same gospel. Money as salvation, surrender as success. The cult of wealth is no longer a single organization. It's an idea, decentralized and immortal, living in every algorithm that rewards illusion over truth. The autopsy of faith. Analysts now study the cult of wealth as a case study in psychological warfare. It combined the grammar of religion with the aesthetics of entrepreneurship. Sermons disguised as seminars, commandments rewritten as contracts. At its core lay a paradox. It preached abundance through deprivation, unity through hierarchy, enlightenment through submission. The victims were not foolish, they were human. They sought belonging, certainty, purpose, the same needs that build nations and destroy them. In interviews, survivors often describe the same moment of realization, the instant when hope felt heavier than fear. That's when control is complete, when doubt becomes betrayal and betrayal becomes sin. Experts call it cognitive captivity. Adrian Vale called it awakening. The difference was language, the result was ruin. If history repeats, it is not because we forget, but because we recognize ourselves too easily in the mirror of temptation. The cult of wealth held that mirror up to humanity and showed what we worship when no one is watching. The final reflection. The story ends where it began, with a promise. A promise that wealth could purify, that greed could sanctify, that pain could redeem. For those who followed Adrian Vale, that promise became prison. For those who study him now, it's a warning written in ash and gold. Somewhere in an undisclosed vault, frozen accounts still hold millions of dollars linked to the cult. No one claims them. Perhaps no one dares. On social media, new voices echo old words. Abundance is your birthright. The phrasing changes, the profits change, but the hunger remains. Because the cult of wealth was never about one man. It was about us, our longing for control over chaos, our need to believe that money can save us from meaninglessness. In the end, the pyramid didn't collapse, it multiplied. Every time someone sells salvation for a price, another stone is added to its foundation. And somewhere in the shadows of a glowing screen, the voice returns, calm, confident, eternal. This isn't manipulation. It's manifestation. Fade to black. Silence. Then a single whisper, would you have joined?